So hello and welcome everybody to our first Curiosita of 2022. Those that don't know me, my name is Dr. Mahlangu. I am the Executive Dean for Strategy and Stakeholder Management here at the Vinci Institute. I know most of you today, so welcome and really exciting times to be back. You will see that I've got a nice graphic at the back. Those of you that have joined Curiosita will know that our graphicist Lisa joins us from Three Stick Men, and she attentively listens to our discussion. She's on your camera now, and then she draws a graphic illustration for the guest speakers as well as you to enjoy. So Leta, hi and welcome. We will let you have your camera off as I know you are very busy. So thank you very much. And then we've got Professor Javier Klopper, the CEO of the Da Vinci Institute, who's also the custodian of Curiosita, alongside me. And then we've shifted our program slightly from this year. So what we're going to do is we're going to start blocking Curiosita into sections where you can log on for the entire session, where you can log on for both the doctoral aspect as well as for the guest speaker. Or for those of you that just want to log on for the guest speaker or just log on for the doctoral, you will be able to. We will be doing that from March onwards. So we're really looking forward to an exciting year here with Curiosita. So as you know, I often do a debate at the beginning, but today I just want to do something slightly different because we're going to also be just spending quite a bit of time with our guest speakers who are really just extremely important to the process. But I wanted to mention something that I want to know if anyone can tell me what Soweto Creamery is. Okay, so I'm seeing no comments for now, so I will share it with you. Our president in his SONA address mentioned a young gentleman who had taken his money off of the COVID grants and he had started his own business. So a gentleman by the name of Tando Makubu started what he named Soweto Creamery, which is an ice cream shop in Soweto. He started it out of his mom's backyard, basically. I can't remember if it was his mom or his aunt. But the reality around this is that I want to remind us how important the entrepreneurial spirit is to the Da Vinci brand and to the Da Vinci philosophy. I think it is really critical for us to embrace entrepreneurship and to really look at areas where we can actually say how innovative people are. So in summary, basically what he did was he took 2 months of his 300, I think he was still on the 300, not the 350 grant money, and he put it aside and he started this Soweto Creamery. Now, it's been very interesting for me to see because if you look at his pricing structure, his prices aren't cheap. His ice creams start from about 70 Rand and they go up to 110, 200 Rand, but they are quite decadent. And a lot of people have criticized him in the media and have said, well, he's not actually he's not actually innovative, he's not creative because he's just taking a bunch of brands and putting them together. And his response was, which I absolutely loved, I never said I made my own ice cream. I said I started an ice cream shop. And I come from a background, because if you look at his background, he's got quite a big brand background and graphics background. I took all my favorite brands and I put them into an ice cream. So if you go search for him, you'll see you can get a cup of ice cream and it's got a Ferrero Rocher on it and it's got all these things on it. But the point I'm trying to make is that we always think that entrepreneurial ideas have to come from creating something brand new. And I've said this before, it can also be the innovation of processes, the innovation of systems, the innovation of technology. It does not have to be a brand new idea. So I loved his story, not only because it's really wonderful to see that he used his grant money and he's now sustaining his family and he's employing 4 people, all of which are part of the family that was supporting him when he was unemployed. He has really created something beautiful in the hub of his township, which is his community. So I remind you as Da Vincians that we have a responsibility to influence the co-creation of humane, sustainable societies. You will start seeing this year at Da Vinci, we've added the word humane to sustainable societies because you can create sustainability and not be humane, as Dr. Franzel de Plooy-Seleers, our Executive Dean Academic, always reminds us. And so I think what's critical here is let us embrace all of our students and participants all of our guest speakers, their ideas and their thoughts, because voices are really important. And the second part is, I hope you will all let your voices be heard and you will share your stories with us, either as guest speakers or alternatively writing blogs for us, or just generally being involved in the Institute's community engagement project with our 2 rural schools that we're involved in, Niakani Centre and Gumedi. And I really just look forward to this year alongside you. So I'm not doing a debate today, but just wanted to give you a little thing about entrepreneurial spirit and hope that we see many innovations and entrepreneurial ideas out of our co-creation at the Institute. And we look forward to engaging with each of you this year. And I am absolutely thrilled that we've got Patrick Mahlangu, who's going to be joining us. So when I speak about entrepreneurs, Patrick is someone who absolutely outshines many entrepreneurs out there. Patrick is certainly an astute entrepreneur. He's a marketing expert with a passion for crafting brands. So he will certainly appreciate the story that I started off, because his own passion for brands started during his days when he was a student at the University of Johannesburg. And he was actually the founder of the campus television station called Varsity TV. You've received his CV, and so many of you can know and understand all the things that he did when he's established Lerato Agency in 2020, a digital platform called Pat on Brands, which is how it started. But I think for me, when we speak about an agile, engaged and aligned leader, his skills in digital marketing, sales and promotion, brand management, media relations, and most importantly, his desire to uplift young leaders certainly makes him a Da Vincian at heart. So he is not only profound in his agency work, and he's led companies and industries with amazing titles, many of them being really strong brands out there. But what I want to share today mostly about Patrick is his ability to actually shift in an agile, engaged and aligned way. In an environment which is fast changing and fast moving, his depth and knowledge on digital platforms is really absolutely remarkable, as we would say at Da Vinci. Not only that, but when we speak about co-creating realities, he's a man who co-creates realities with multiple brands and never ever forgets about the community to which he feels continuously indebted by contributing so much to it. So Patrick, it is indeed our honor to have you as our guest speaker here today at Curiosita, to engage with us and to hear all your different ideas around various aspects connected to your own work and also just in general society. I welcome our guest speaker today, Mr. Patrick Mahlangu.
Thank you so much, Doc. Thank you for the invitation. When Prof. HB gave me a call to say, Pat, are you available to come speak? I felt obliged, you know. Sometimes they say, what do you give a man who has everything? I guess, Prof, this is the best gift I can ever give you, my time today. So Prof had played also a very integral role, you know, in my entrepreneurship journey. You know, sometimes when you start out as an entrepreneur, you're not sure what you're doing, you're not sure about where you're going, and sometimes it just helps to speak to someone who's more knowledgeable and who just give you advice, you know, to say, and also give you a surety that you're on the right path, you know, because it's easy to be caught up in the negative stuff and that your business will fail. But if someone like Prof gives you a bit of a push and say, look, you can do it, so and so did it, this is how you can do it, that really goes a long way. And I just want to express my sincere gratitude to Prof. HB for all your contribution in my entrepreneurship journey. You remember those late nights? I used to keep you in class after our last lecture, you know, and say, Prof, please don't go yet. Let's have a chat quickly. You know, I'm faced with this challenge in my business. How can I tackle it? And
I will always nurture that, Patrick.
In South Africa, you know, but first and foremost, I just want to obviously paint a picture in terms of where we find ourselves in South Africa as far as entrepreneurship is concerned. You know, we are in a country where 5 out of 7 businesses fail within 5 years. You know, that's a staggering number, you know, to see so many businesses fail. However, we've seen a few businesses succeeding, and particularly during the COVID pandemic, and that's encouraging. So what I want to say today, really, I mean, also what a coincidence, because it's also the budget speech today, I can only just hope that the Minister of Finance will factor in small businesses and allocate some funds for small businesses to grow in the country, because we really do need an extra push from the government. But unfortunately, all I can say is at the moment, entrepreneurs in this country are literally on their own. There's hardly any support that we're seeing, particularly from the public sector. Every now and then, you hear about funds being allocated to SMEs in the country, to entrepreneurs. I personally, I've got I'd say a strong network with other entrepreneurs. I've never had stories of someone say, oh, actually, remember that grant that the government allocated? I got some of it. Never. In the past 2 years, and it really just shows that, look, we are on our own, and at the end of the day, we could do with the support, but then again, we're not going to get it. And the biggest thing also that I want to highlight is that, to be an entrepreneur, someone said, it's like taking part in an extreme sport, because things just fluctuate every day, and what no one can ever prepare you for is actually leading people. In my entrepreneurship journey, the hardest thing I ever had to do was to manage people. It was all good when it was a one-man show, two-man show, me and my business partner, we just building our own, following our passion. We're young, we're naive. The moment when you start hiring people, that's where things fundamentally change. Yeah, so no one prepares you, in terms of managing people. And I don't think there's any amount of books and literature that you can go through that will prepare you to lead people. But what I do appreciate the most about entrepreneurship is that it like any other sport, really, it's about practice. The longer you have your skin in the game, the better. So to anyone that wants to venture into entrepreneurship, just have this mindset that, it's a journey. It's never a destination. And I do think that if you're chasing money or wealth, you'll quickly get disappointed. The idea that you start your business with, often it's not the idea that will pop, as we say in the streets, So it's important that you have a long-term game and you're passionate about what you want to do. So I was fortunate enough, I'd say that I think I found my passion and my purpose very earlier on in my life when I was still at UJ. And I just fell in love with marketing and branding, and I'm so privileged to find myself in this position that I'm in today, that I'm actually working and building businesses in the space that I'm most passionate about. So if you're not passionate about what you're doing, and you just want to be wealthy because you read that Mark Zuckerberg is a multi-billionaire.
While we wait for Patrick to come back, I'm interested because I know there's quite a few entrepreneurs here as well, in terms of some of the areas around startups and starting entrepreneurial businesses, some of your own advice to people, because I think it's really it's a difficult space to navigate when they say that within the first 3 to 5 years, most businesses don't make it, even if you've got reserve fund, and you should have at least 3 years reserved. So Janet, I know you very big in the entrepreneurial space, and there's quite a few others. So I'm just wondering your thoughts.
Sure. Never give up would be the greatest piece of advice. I do think that sometimes people go into entrepreneurship too quickly. It's like, I'm going to start my own business, I'm going to be making money in 3 months, and it does not happen. And so some people have no choice. Stuff happens and they need to start their own business. But if you've got a choice, if you're in a reasonably stable job, think it through before you jump in, would be the first piece of advice.
Thanks, Janet. And I think what's quite interesting for me was the comment about that managing people is an extreme sport. I think those of us in management positions, one of the things for me that's quite big, and I don't know how Deerwold or anyone else who wants to comment, is when you manage within an organization, it's very different from managing in an entrepreneurial space, because you've got the policies and procedures of a big organization. I think for me, it's really quite a big thing in an organization. You almost have backing, but as an entrepreneur, you often have to deal with, for example, external factors, contractors and people that you get in to support the business. And I know a lot of people who've really struggled with that, and it's actually toppled their entrepreneurial endeavors. So just interested on some people's views with regards to that managing people within your process is quite extreme. Harvey, I'm not sure if you wanted to say something.
I can respond to that, Marla, and I don't see any other hands. So I think you touch on a very important aspect here. It's not a lonely journey, and I think Patrick said he must have passion and purpose, but it's all working with people and engaging with people and using and mobilizing people, because it's never a lonely journey, it's never a one-man band. My personal view is a lot of entrepreneurs almost have the position of fail it forward. And if you listen to the successful entrepreneurs, and I think that's what you alluded to, Janet, it's a very calculated business decision that you need to make. You need to surround you with the right people that challenge you. You need to have a solid business proposal. So there's a lot of rigor that go into this space. And in doing that, it's all about people, satisfying people, addressing the needs of people, and you need to be very in tune with other people to really be successful as an entrepreneur.
So while we're waiting for Patrick, I also just want to let you guys know that on the 24th of February from 1 to 2, if you haven't received our invitation, we've got a live panel discussion on the African continental growth agenda for the next 5 years. And it is, as I said, from 1 to 2 o'clock. And it is Prof. Habia, Dr. Haramsa, Dr. Mabunda, and Dr. Kusanthan are all going to be discussing and having a panel discussion after the budget speech around the African continental growth agenda for the next 5 years. And so it's going to be really quite an interesting debate. So I hope that you'll join us for that. Patrick's rejoined, Habia. We were just discussing while you were gone your comment about it being an extreme sport to manage people in entrepreneurship and just the impact of often contractors and other people actually impacting your business itself as an entrepreneur, because it's not only just about people, but those that you rely on to build your business. So I will let you continue. Thank you very much, Patrick.
All right, thank you. And apologies about that. Technology don't always, work in our favor. But as I was saying, really, entrepreneurship is an extreme sport and does require one to be resilient in the pursuit of the entrepreneurship journey. So what also, often people talk about, obviously it's easy to criticize the government and say you're not doing enough and whatever. But then again, my thinking is that society as a whole, has a role to play in entrepreneurship. And I think it starts very much on, in one's life. And it comes, I would say, more alive when you are at varsity. And also, if you look at some of the most successful entrepreneurs, they started blossoming when they were at institutions of higher, and I mean, the data is there, the stats are there. Having a qualification in something does really help you in terms of becoming an astute entrepreneur. So it's not only about also the qualification, and I often get disheartened, when you hear youngsters saying they don't want to go to school because Mark Zuckerberg dropped out, or Bill Gates is also a university dropout. But also, if you look at where those two chaps dropped out of, which institutions, they were in Harvard, meaning that there was something upstairs, they could comprehend the situations and the times that they found themselves in, and they could comprehend some of the things that they came across. And the most unfortunate thing in South Africa is our state of education, particularly in primary education. I mean, statistics has it that, many young people in grade 4 can't read for comprehension. If you take that child, 5 years down the line, the future is really grim unless there's something drastic that is done, to help that kind of person to understand certain things. So it's really disheartening where we find ourselves with education. And I just want to, implore anyone that's in institutions of higher learning or in the education space to really do their best, in terms of empowering young from an education perspective, because some of the things that I do today, if it wasn't for the that I received, I wouldn't be able to do them. And the unfortunate part is that, I for one, I'm like, I'd say in my family, an anomaly, because I grew up in a village, first one to graduate from university, first one to run a business at this scale, and someone like me relied on his lecturers, I relied on my lecturers. I relied on the people that gave me opportunities to be the ones that guide me, because back home, I couldn't have a chat with anyone really about either about my studies or about my entrepreneurship dreams, and no one would understand. Even to this day, my mom doesn't know what I'm doing. It's really that. But thank God for education and institutions of higher learning, and also having had lecturers like Prof. HB, who are able to sort of, whenever given the opportunity, they're able to give you answers to some of the questions that one had. So education is really a critical thing, and I don't think that we can replace education with entrepreneurship, or education for entrepreneurship. The two are not mutually exclusive. They actually go hand in hand. But then again, also where I take sort of issues with some of the corporates that operate, for example, in the space of enterprise or supplier development, that take entrepreneurs from, say, for example, I don't think there's a point of taking someone like myself, not that I want to be cocky or whatever, and put them in a class and teach them marketing 101 and teach them about 7 Ps. I've done that in varsity. I've done that throughout my university life. I even have a master's. All I need right now is access to opportunity. I need to get an opportunity to prove that I can actually do the work. And I think that's where most corporates sort of tend to fall short when actually addressing this entrepreneurship thing. Because also, like I did mention on that, entrepreneurship is actually a very practical thing. Learn as you go. It's not really about knowing the theory. Even with marketing and finance, yes, it's good that you understand the basics of marketing, the 7 Ps, the marketing mix, and all of that. But the market also decides how they want to be communicated to. More than half of the communications channel that I proposed to my clients today, when I was doing my first year 10 years ago with UJ, there was still a debate whether social media should fall under the IT department or the marketing department. There were still those debates happening when we were still talking about the earlier days of Web 2.0. There were those things going on in terms of people saying, should IT take care of this because it's a piece of technology, we're not familiar with it, it needs programming. But over time, it became clear that actually social media is a powerful marketing tool, and therefore it needs to sit in the marketing department. So it's really important also that as you journey along in your entrepreneurship endeavors, just not to be rigid, because things change. As I mentioned before, I got cut off. I did mention the fact that you need to be nimble. There's a hand up.
Hi, Patrick, it's me. So I wanted to ask you a question. I think for us as a brand as Vinci, but I think for many people in the audience who themselves are also business people, I'm interested from a marketing perspective to understand it is critical to get visibility for your brand, obviously. So how would you, with limited budgets, how would you advise entrepreneurs or small businesses to actually get the type of visibility that they need for their business?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So I often get asked that question, and I think the biggest, in most cases, disservice that many entrepreneurs starting out is that they don't want to invest in their brand. They don't see marketing and brand building as an asset for their business. And we all know that actually the biggest asset any business can ever have, it's its brand, But to answer your question in terms of what is the sort of efficient way of getting your brand out there, I'd say PR, public relations. It's one of the most cost-effective ways actually to get your brand out there. So what PR covers things like media relations, just being in the media and also doing things that will catch the attention of either your target customers and also the media. So if you look at entrepreneurs like, I would say, in the South African context, I mean, even if you look at it globally, let's start with Bill Gates. Bill Gates' famous quote when he said, "If I was down to my last dollar, I'll spend it on PR, on public relations." It just speaks to the power of PR, because PR is earned media. So with that said, is that you don't, if, for example, to be on ENCA for 15 minutes to talk about your business and what you all about and the challenges that you're trying to solve, if you were to advertise for 15 minutes on ENCA prime time, you're looking at about 2 million plus worth of budget, 2 million rands plus worth of budget. But with PR, you can sit and have that airtime for free. That's how powerful PR is, and still reach millions of people. So my advice is that you need to craft your story, make it palatable to the media so that you can pitch the stories to your media. And again, also write opinion pieces, and again, that's when our education also comes into play, because if you don't know how to write, if you can't comprehend certain things and the situations and times we find ourselves in right now, then you won't have much to say to the media. So it's really important that you start, like, PR is your best bet. If you have, say, 5,000 rands worth of budget, I'm sure you can get a PR freelancer that can help you get your story into the media, get that talkability, And the other thing that I like with media is that once you've done 1 or 2 media appearances, if your story is compelling enough, other media houses just jump on you, just like that, And also, so PR becomes important, and social media. Digital media is also another powerful marketing tool, but I think it is getting expensive by the time. If you look at, for example, the organic reach that you get on Facebook 5 years ago versus what you get today, it's worlds apart. So you need to spend a bit of money to actually get the visibility and the attention of your customers. At this moment, I'd say
I think you've made a very important point. So especially because a lot of people here, you yourselves are also academics and business owners, etc. So I think from that perspective, we often speak about it at Vinci, that it's very important for us to become thought leaders, opinion leaders. As you've rightly said, Patrick, when you've got the privilege of education, you shouldn't waste it and you should use it to your benefit. So those of you that have joined, I'm interested to also understand around this, we playing with it a lot here at Da Vinci, around how to really improve our profiles. And as you've said, once somebody is on a certain media and they operate well, they'll often be called back. Prof. Klopper will probably shout at me for saying this, but he's a very regular radio guest on various radio stations, and it's because he's hiding.
Just to link back to that, Patrick, and the audience, I think, Patrick, you underplay, or maybe you don't want to be arrogant or upfront, but I think part of the DNA and knowing you in person, is also the hard work that goes in. I think you do a lot about the branding, but I think we must not underestimate the hard work and the ability to be in tuned and to be sensitive to what's happening around you. Because it's about spotting the opportunity and also chasing the opportunity. And people don't see the late nights and the hard work that you sat in and the sacrifices one always makes. So I'm not sure if you want to respond to that.
Yeah. I mean, hard work, it's really at the core of any entrepreneur's DNA, Often, like you say, people don't see the late nights. People don't see sometimes the work that one has to do for free without getting paid, in the pursuit of building a certain profile, there's a lot of sacrifices. I mean, if I were to tell you, Prof, 2 years ago, when COVID-19 started, I had landed a contract with one of the big actually emerging banks, and we we're going to have activations throughout the country at all 26 universities. It was exciting. We only managed to do one, and afterwards COVID hit and the president shut the country down, and obviously that left me devastated, and I had to pivot as it was the trending word, pivoting and all of that. And I had to think again, in terms of where am I going to be? That's why, I started Lerato Agency in the midst of lockdown. And I remember one of my friends give me a call and say, hey, Pat, there's this agency that I'm working at, and they're looking for an account manager. Don't you want to join me? And I flat out said no. I was like, no way I'm going to go work, And obviously, in retrospect, I was crazy. I had no income. I had no, there was no money sort of sitting and waiting for me to spend. And I remember also calling my landlord, saying, hey, as you know, lockdown. Actually, my former landlord, because I moved out soon after things started to go on again. And I remember calling her and saying, I might not be able to pay my rent this month. Can I at least pay something? And she flat out said to me, if you can't pay rent, I'm going to start advertising the unit, and I'll take your deposit to pay for it. And in retrospect, obviously it was harsh, it was a harsh reality. Everyone was talking about Ubuntu and payment breaks and all of that. I never got that, but I won't lie, that rejection also motivated me to work even harder. I never made the rent payment. I had to pivot and find other forms of generating revenue, and also the start of my agency, which right afterwards I was fortunate enough to get a gig to actually craft South Africa's first ever post-apartheid city brand identity, Lanseria Smart City, that the president announced in February 2022. Then I went on to work with some big brands in Tiger Brands, and so it just, again, snowballed again. But yeah, that's the sacrifice one needs to make, but also you have to be sort of also naive, in the sense that, we hope that things will work out. If you think about it, I mean, also I often say this to people that the sacrifice that one needs to make, because in many cases, a lot of people their own things, Prof. People want to be entrepreneurs, but they don't want to sacrifice anything. They think, I'll do my 9 to 5, have my side hustle, and my side hustle makes more money than my 9 to 5, then I'm jumping ship. It's not easy as that, because also the biggest asset that any entrepreneur has, it's time. If you can free up time during the day, because also those are the hours of trade. That's when potential clients are willing to see it, because it's business hours. So very few people will succeed in entrepreneurship, having a side hustle and actually running. But in all essence, entrepreneurship is about time and attention into your business. Try and reiterate, meet people. Another big thing that most people don't talk about the hard work, Prof, is the networking, and I'm glad that things are starting to open up again in terms of the lockdown levels and COVID-19. We need to be out there. We need to be having this in person so that I can meet the 23 odd other people that are on this live, and we can exchange contacts and some ideas. It's not easy online, even though it is convenient that, we have a speaker from outside of SA. It's all good and well, but the networking now is missing. And also, business is about networks. People want to work with people they like and they know and they trust. So if I don't trust you, there's no way. I mean, think about also the products that you buy. You buy an iPhone because you trust the brand that it'll do what it's supposed to do, or what it says it'll do, at least. So those are some of the things that people sort of tend to disregard about entrepreneurship.
Yeah, no, Patrick, I think that's very valuable. Reflecting on your insights from COVID and how it actually made your business more agile. And it would be interesting, to give us maybe one or two big takeaways that you've learned from COVID that strengthen your business. If we look at the positive side, because there was many struggles, and maybe something else from the audience to also chip in here, because I think we must look at the future. What have we learned from this pandemic, and how have it improved our ability to do business?
Yeah, I mean, the key takeaway, if there's anything really, and I know it's been said many a times, being agile, being flexible, nimble, in your approach. I think it'll take us very far also as a country, it's easy to get stuck in what we already know, and it's a bit discomfortable to actually, or uncomfortable rather, to start learning new things, doing things in a new manner. Actually, I remember the words of Mike Brown, the CEO of Nedbank, when he was interviewed on 702 by Bruce Whitfield. So he said that if it was in their plans, to implement this work from home situations, it would have taken them years. But with COVID, they just had to do it. They had otherwise, the business was going to collapse. And many other businesses, and I think we shouldn't wait again for COVID for certain things to start changing. I think that's also a big thing, because it's easy to get stuck, like I did mention, on the things that but then again, being agile, embracing change. If the young people are saying, I want to work from home 3 times a week, you better start listening, and obviously you guide them. because this thing of work from home, working from anywhere, it really sort of was driven by millennials mostly, say, but I mean, if I have my laptop and my internet, why do I need to be at the office every day? They started asking those questions, but then they're like, their bosses, they're like, no, what do you know about working from home? I want to see you here. I want to see that you work. And that was the attitude. Then COVID happened. And the boss had to work from home. Everyone else had to work from home. So that's going to be a very important thing, going forward. The lessons is that we have to move with times,
Yeah. Very valuable. No, thank you for that, Patrick. And I don't want to put Benjamin on the spot here, but Benjamin and I see Benjamin Martins in the audience had a similar discussion the other day. No, Patrick, I think that's valuable. Maybe anybody else from the audience that want to reflect on this. I think there's a lot of knowledgeable people here in this space that can talk from experience. Gibson, all the way from Imrahleni.
Thank you very much, Prof. There are two concepts that I would like to throw in the basket, although won't be able, in the interest of time, won't be able to discuss them in detail. But there's an issue of heterarchy, although I can't pronounce very well, versus hierarchy. And self-managed work teams or self-directed work teams. What happens is that with working from home, unfortunately, management had to deal with self-directing work teams. What it did, it broke completely hierarchies. People became more hierarchical, although I can't pronounce it very well. Yeah, so in future, maybe that's going to be the direction that the world's going to take, self-directing work teams versus teams that are being managed through certain hierarchies. Thanks, Prof.
Thanks, Gibson. Patrick, your view, your response to that?
Yeah, that's a very big word, hierarchy. I think more than anything, where we, I think, but also at the same time, there is a fine line, in terms of people leading themselves, because certain types of businesses won't allow for such to happen. Authority will still be a thing, and for many reasons, And also, I'll give you an example with our line of business, which is a marketing agency, a digital creative agency. We need to collaborate a lot, in terms of whether we get a brief from client and need to brainstorm and sometimes that doesn't really work virtually, and also, again, if anything that COVID also sort of highlighted was the inequalities of the country, in terms of if one of my team members stays in Soweto somewhere, doesn't have internet connectivity or it's got slow internet connectivity, they live in 2-bedroom and there's 8 of them in the house. It's just, there's those dynamics that obviously we can't disregard, as we move forward. Hence, it's important that this inequality issue somehow gets addressed, but also it'll only be addressed with entrepreneurs being given the space to do their own thing and actually create more employment for people, because without employment, there's no other way. Without getting more people employed, without more new businesses being established, it's not about just dividing the cake that's already there. It's about growing the cake. And entrepreneurs, I think, are the ones that are well positioned in terms of growing the cake. It doesn't help to take from Peter to pay Paul. There needs to be other people that are also contributing to the thing. So the work from home situation is, I think, will work best or does work best in instances whereby people obviously already know what they're doing and they have the resources to do so. In many cases, unfortunately, not many have resources.
Thanks, Patrick. I think you've made a very critical point around that. And it's something that I'm encouraging each of you on the forum to please blog about and email us your blogs around working from home, around entrepreneurship. I really encourage you to submit to us because that would really be fantastic. Patrick, thank you for engaging with us. I think that people really have a lot to think about with regards to this, but where I really want to point out is your Franzel spoke earlier. She put a comment saying that entrepreneurs require tenacity. And I think that one of the bravest things that you said in comments you made is how most people want to be entrepreneurs and they want to keep their job to keep their security. And true entrepreneurs actually take that massive leap of faith. But what I do want to speak about with regards to that is most people see the glory of where you sit today with a lovely suit on, with a beautiful picture behind your back. And very few speak about the fact that you almost lost a place to live. And really strong entrepreneurs all say the same thing. And that's why I say that you're not only tenacious, but you're extremely brave. And entrepreneurs are certainly warriors, but we need entrepreneurs because, as you say, we cannot find jobs for everybody. And so it takes a brave spirit to be an entrepreneur. So to all of you sitting here today that are entrepreneurs, I certainly do salute you because it is an incredible endeavor. And Adrian, who's one of our lecturers, has put a comment saying that we would love to get you to speak to our new venture creation students, which are from a group of students who were given learnerships to come and learn entrepreneurial skills. And I think Prof. Harvey will be in touch with you with regards to that. But I think, Patrick, you've really just shown that it's not such an easy journey. And you yourself, being a young gentleman, took some massive risks, and it was just 2 years ago that you were still sitting in the situation. So you understand the struggles with regards to that. And the last point I wanted to make was the comments you made around support structures. I think you've raised something really critical as part of community engagement. Harvey and I often speak about that we need to have entrepreneurial clinics and business clinics so that we give back to the community as an institute. And you've inspired us today by saying, as higher education providers, you need to use your knowledge and help people. So I really do hope that we can give back to the community by offering those skills that Harbia gave you and to give to other students, the community that are not fortunate enough to be able to afford studying and can gain knowledge from universities in that way. So thank you for inspiring us to do that, Patrick. Much appreciated.